But without any further delay, here is Greg, and he'll tell you a little bit about himself now.
Hey, I'm Greg Autori, and I actually started as a professional toy designer uh, when I became a summer intern at Mattel, and I stayed 10 years. And then actually Kenner Toys, Kenner Hasbro actually moved me away, lured me away to Ohio. And one of the reasons I took it is because it was one step closer to working on GI Joe, my favorite toy line. Uh, and what I'm a big fan of loving toys, and I've made tons and tons of toys, and I always like to take some of my favorite toys growing up, things like fun puppets, and then make them even more fun, which is something I made, at Hasbro Kenner.
Right. So
And
you actually made that?
so yeah, I was the designer on this, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, so parts of it I made myself. This is actually a production one.
Amazing.
Yeah, but we had to. The interesting thing, actually, quick story on this. If you look closely, see that nice text. Can you see that nice dino texturing all over it?
Right, right. I
So
see
if
it.
you look at any toy dinosaur right now, almost all of them have that,
Uh-huh.
and it's a special process called roller pressed brush trico. Like any of the little dinosaurs from the beanies, uh, all of those, they all have that pressed skin texture on it. No one had it before this came out.
Mm.
It was a process used for upholstery and not in toys, and so it's just kind of funny that even a little thing like this can spread through the whole toy industry. So even though these didn't sell well, they did make an impact.
Well, you were saying, I think, on one of your posts that you designed the little dinosaurs that people dug out and out of the dirt, out of the sand, and my grandchildren had just been playing with one of those, and it just showed me the little dinosaur, and I said, I wonder if Greg did this one too.
Well, and I've calculated I've done at least over 2,000 toys by now. So
Unbelievable.
it's a few of them.
Yes, yes, it is.
Well, and GI Joe, of course, was my favorite, and I played with GI Joe differently, I think, than probably most kids. Most kids just kind of like, here's the package, and I'm going to do what it's telling me to do. But for me, I had GI Joe. My first one was actually the vintage dress Marine back when it was just military.
Okay.
And then one of my other favorites were all of the costume packs from Captain Action, so that I got to have Superman and Lone Ranger and all those fun things. I also had quite a few Marks toys. I mean, 12-inch figures were for me everything. And so for me, it wasn't just I'm going to play Johnny West. It was, what do I want to play today? And it
Right.
might be an adventure, and it might be even rescuing Barbie. It might be a space thing, and I might bring in Captain Laser from the Major Matt Mason line. I may have just watched the Three Musketeers, and I took all my Johnny West cowboy hats and glued them up and put a feather, and then made them all into the Musketeers.
Musketeers, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, that size figure was just my cast of characters to go play whatever I wanted with.
Right.
And like when I did Double Duty, which a line I presented inside Kenner, and they were like, "Oh, you can never afford that." I'm like, and then they were like, "Do you really think you can afford that?" I said, "Yes, I can. Let me go do it." But that line, that segment of GI Joe is how I played. And it was so cool because so many times I was literally sitting on the floor in my studio with, here's my box of helmets, here's my box of boots, and I need a new World War II figure that's going to have a working mortar. I'd make the mortar separate, but I'd rearrange the figure to get it all right, and sew whatever I had to sew to make the new parts. And they paid me.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was like, for me, it was all about, you have an idea for the adventure or the mission, and then you get your GI Joe all dressed up to go do that.
Right.
And that's what Double Duty was about, because you had all the parts to go do like a 2-part mission, which were fun. And one of the other fun things was, and I don't know if people believe this or not, but really several of the faces of the 12-inch GI Joes were the designers. And now, of course, they modified it, so they're not perfect. Some of them look dead on. Some of them, I didn't believe that was that person until I saw the actual photos going, oh, they really did sculpt it from him. But, and actually, I was on G.I. Joe Classic Collection for 5 years, which I might have been on the line longer than anyone else. But anyway, this was a figure that I assembled from several different things. But what's important to this is they brought up the subject of having my head on a G.I. Joe. And I'm like, no, that's not the hero head.
Right. I got you.
But when they came up, when they were like, oh, we need the talking MP.
Hold it, buddy. Advance to be recognized. Halt. Open fire.
So that's your voice.
That's my voice.
I wanted to talk for a second about that Hazard Joe that you made, the spy guy.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more in detail about that. None of us are ever going to have it, but we can kind of drool over it.
I can dream about you.
Yeah, we can dream. Tell us what the pieces are, and maybe
So, and let me mention. So this was near the end of GI Joe, and when they were trying to decide, okay, which way should we go with GI Joe to try to save it? We looked at, doubling down on Adventure Team. We looked at, do we take it a spy direction, things like that. And so the idea here, of course, it's super articulated GI Joe, which is still the best body ever. And so he comes with, let's see if I can do this while I'm seeing here. Okay, so basic outfit, and of course so he's got gear belt, soft goods belt with the holster. He's got an attaché case with a handcuffs. Of course, several different types of grenades, because you don't know which kind you're going to need. A flak vest, camera. Oh, this is funny because this is actually a vintage piece. Because you never know what I'm going to do. This was that's one of the last versions from Spy Island. Yeah.
Oh, that's Spy Island. Cool.
Yeah. And then the idea was, because this had a full play pattern, the idea was that there was 3 different outfits that he would kind of make into to go do whatever. And let me go back to the back section here, which was, so you've got a night recon. You rearrange for night recon, and there's the hat there, which is basically Spy Island.
Okay.
And then there's an outfit here that made it look like he was like a reporter, and he had a news reporter type of a thing. And then he could change his outfit into looking like whichever dictator, ruthless dictator. He could make it look like, and then steal whatever plans, so that the nefarious action could be stopped and snuck out of the building.
Were those the mask helmets, or just the mask on the front of the face?
I think it depends. I think they were the helmets, and funny thing on that one too, because here is, this is the plain Mantis, Dr. Evil, human head. This was the Cab-Eye Singh head, but with the hat. This hat, I think, was actually vintage Action Man, one of the German sets.
Oh yes. Yeah. I remember. Mm-hmm.
And then these soft goods I made completely from scratch. And although it looks like I just took the outfit from Mike Hazard, it is way more detailed, has way more pockets to be able to put all sorts of things, even a pocket here, pocket there. And then this outfit here, flips around from black on one side to the gray on the other side to make it look like he's the officer. And rifle parts that all come apart and could hide inside it. And, it was fun.
Greg, I cannot say how much of an imagination we can see just by looking at your stuff. It's amazing. It's just amazing. You are gifted and you're talented, brother.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll get Murray on next week. How about that,
Hey,
Murray?
yeah.
Maybe you'll come on and share some of your creations with us. All right, here's our guest, Robert DeCastro. Welcome.
Hey guys, how you guys doing out there in YouTube land?
Yes, it's fun. It's fun on YouTube land, isn't it?
Oh yes, and thank you for having me, Terry. Well, I had them as a kid. In about 1975, I got my first Eagle Eye Land Commander.
Okay.
And back in the Philippines, there's not that many people that had GI Joe. But since my dad worked for KLM, he traveled a lot, so he got me my first GI Joe. Actually, he brought back a Eagle Eye GI Joe and an Atomic Man. In the 90s, when the Hall of Fame GI Joe came out, that's really what spurred the interest in 12-inch GI Joes again. Yeah, that one came around 2007 when I basically quit Illustrator work. And I discovered this thing called the designer vinyl toys, which is basically artists basically making toys of their artwork. And that really appealed to me as an artist because here are two things that I liked, which was collecting toys and art.
Right.
And around that time, I made my first robot toy. It was called Combat R0. You'll find it on my Atomic Mushroom Toys website. Still have some there. Basically, when it comes in from Japan, it's in parts. I've got to trim it and then assemble it, and it'll basically look like that. It's blank, right?
Uh-huh.
And then I take an airbrush and a special paint. I take a special paint and an airbrush, and we have something like that. It's all hand assembled and hand painted, and you can see there's a little feature there.
Yes.
Space. I've always wanted the armament carrier, the green version that they did release.
Uh-huh.
And when I finally decided to go and get one, I was searching on eBay, and there was this tan Humvee that caught my eye. I thought it was a custom, and I guess the seller had that common problem because apparently he's had that Humvee for 10 years in his shop, and he was never able to move it from his eBay store because nobody ever, just paid it any attention. But when I look back at it, because I was just so curious, because whoever did that custom, I thought did such a fabulous job that I really looked at the photograph in detail. And the toy designer in me, when I worked in the industry, caught some things in the interior, and I was like, that's not a custom. Only manufacturers would do those kinds of things, like the way the hard top connects to the body. It had those little pegs that only like toy designers and manufacturers would do because you have to screw it from the bottom, right? Right. And then I noticed that the finish, the tan finish, wasn't paint because any customizer also knows what a surface of something looks like when it's been painted. And this had a kind of like a soapy kind of a bar of soap kind of sheen to it. Right. So when I started to put things together, I said, this doesn't look like a custom. There was also a detail on the roof that never appeared on the regular armament carrier. That's a circular detail, and it looked like something went in there. So I started researching to see if they released some kind of limited run. But there was no sign that they ever released it, not even in, like, you know how sometimes they release stuff in other countries? That
Right.
wasn't even the case. So I started to get excited because I was thinking this is a salesman sample, a pre-production sample. That's what my gut was telling me. And when I was asking Paul Knapp about, you know, if he had any knowledge about it, he showed me a poster that had a picture of that very same Humvee. And so
Yeah,
I posted it on.
Oh, you show that.
Huh? Oh, there's your chats right there.
Yeah, I saw where you showed that picture.
Yeah.
That must have got your juices going.
Oh, I'm telling you, because I asked Daryl DePriest, and he said there's that was never released, and that's probably a pre-production sample, and that's all I needed, really. So I started talking to the seller and negotiating a price, and I got it just on pure hunch. And
Right.
when it came back, I was right. I was totally right. It was not a custom. Nothing about it said custom. Everything had Hasbro markings. There was no paint. Everything was molded in tan color. And there was a mishap though, because during the shipment, both rear hubs that held the wheel completely shattered. And of course, I got the help of Jim Egner, 3D printing master, and he took the pieces that I glued together and he replicated it perfectly.
He's a master.
Oh, he saved my bacon that day. And God bless him. He dropped other things he was doing because he knew like, oh, this is important. We got to get this fixed and out there. And,
Right.
Yeah, I think that if they were the first one on the market, and I think this is a lesson that they needed to relearn from Don Levine, was that you got to be first in the market. You got to be
Yes.
you got to put it out there first before the other guys, or else you're gonna lose momentum.
Yeah.
I think if they had done that, everybody would have the tan Humvee today.
Well,
And of course, this one is the now famous Scarab.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that one's a beast. It's 6-wheel drive, 6-wheel steering. The machine gun can traverse and elevate by remote. All the lights are working. Let's see if I can lift this bad boy. Oh, you see how big it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, all the lights are independently controlled. So when I turn it on, they don't all turn on, because I could just turn on the headlights and the brake lights, the running lights if I wanted, and the roll bar lights. Yeah.
Thank you again, Robert.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. Make sure you tell your friends. Help us grow the channel, get the word out, and have fun. Remember, toy. I know everybody's chomping at the bit waiting to see our guests. So here he is, David Lane. Welcome to the show,
Hey,
David.
everybody. Thank you. Glad to be here. How are y'all?
I've been collecting for years, but I got really active, and it's all your fault.
Well, that's one thing I'm happy to take responsibility for.
That's right.
Lots of times I'll be ducking and dodging trying to avoid responsibility, but that I'll take responsibility for.
So what got you into it, David?
Well, I started collecting in the 90s, and like you, I had to have somebody to blame. The Hasbro came out with a set that was a repro vintage figure at a Foot Locker, I think around 94 or 96. And it was it was like a 40th anniversary or a masterpiece with a Foot Locker. And we were Christmas shopping, and my oldest son was with me. We were actually looking for something for Mama, and we happened to just walk by the toy aisle at Target, and I saw it up on the top shelf, and I said, "Oh, that's just exactly like the ones I had when I was a kid. That was my favorite toy. I loved GI Joe." And we kept on shopping for Mama, and we went back home, and I essentially just dropped him off. I don't remember the exact details, but I had to go somewhere else, and my wife said that I let him off, and he went in the house and ran into Mama and said, "Well, you've got to take me back to the Target. I found what I'm getting Daddy for Christmas." And he bought that thing for me for Christmas, and it was just I don't know how to describe it. I cried because it was so meaningful to me. And GI Joe was my favorite when I was a kid, and it just brought all of these memories rushing back. And then I just started, like, I think I started like everybody. I wanted to kind of recreate the things I had as a kid, and so I started looking around at online and different places. And that was just about the time eBay started. And I discovered eBay, and then the rest was history. And so it really took off from there. But GI Joe was just so incredible when I was a kid, and I know everybody says the same thing. All the collectors say the same thing. But when I was really little, I played with those little green army men. You know, the ones that were just 2 inches tall, and I loved them. I literally must have had 1,000 of those little green army men, and I would set up armies, you know, fighting each other. But I remember thinking when I was 4, 5, 6 years old, I wish I could pose them, because I wanted them to be movable, so I could move their arms and legs and pose them and things like that. And then GI Joe came out in '64, and I was 9, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven. And it was just the most wonderful thing, because it was like my wildest fantasy to be able to have this soldier that I could pose and do all of this kind of things with. And so then he rekindled that, and I blame him for creating the monster that exists
Was that Cody?
today. That was Hayden, our oldest.
Hayden? Okay.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So,
well, I know that Cody liked Jody. I mean, like Jody too.
He did. He was a collector himself. You know, he and I would go to all the shows together and do all the cruising eBay together and look at things. And he really, really enjoyed it.
Did he write this book?
Yeah, he did. Well, it was a combination effort, but it was his idea, and he talked us through the plot line and the characters and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's really his, and I did some of the execution. That was it.
It's amazing, and it's one of my favorites. And you know, I wanted the figure for years. And could not find it anywhere. And I finally found it, and I was able to finally buy it. And there he is. Just love it. I just love it.
But it's a really, really good figure. I think that was the 2006 figure or 2007. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. And
you were involved in starting Joe Atlanta, weren't you?
Well, I worked the first one. Buddy Finethy, Brian Becker, Lanny Latham, and there was one more person, and the name just fell out of my brain. Jim Marinetti. They actually started it, and the first one was in 2000, and I was a volunteer. I worked, and then I got more involved the second year and third year. But yeah, I've been there forever since day one. But can't say that I was one of the founders.
Well, to me, Joe Lanta became kind of like what I looked forward to every year.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. Me and my grandson, we would come, we would plan all year what he was going to make for the diorama contest and for the vehicles and things. And it was just kind of like our vacation. And I look back at those videos of him throwing the guy that parachuted off. We would take 3 or 4 and parachute them off.
Right.
and of course the year that Jack threw Elvis Presley,
Right.
that was a great one. And
Reminded me,
I missed the
Ja-
Marriott.
yeah, we do too, but we just outgrew it. You know, the
Yes,
show got so big. We have over 2,000 every year
yes,
who come to the show in the Marriott. It would handle 1,000 pretty comfortably, and we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and it got up around 15, 16, 1,800, and we were just popping at the seams. People couldn't
that's
move.
right,
There wasn't enough space for all the dealers to get in, and so we
right,
had to do something. And you know, with everything you give and you get, we got more space, etc. But we lost the parachute drop, which was
yes,
always a highlight of the show, because we can't find anything with that open atrium like the Marriott had,
right.
and so it's been hard to duplicate some of those things. But I'm a military era guy, 64 to 68. I've wound up with a few 69 sets, even two or three adventure team guys, but primarily I'm 64 to 68 military era. And because that's what I played with. You know, I was 9 when he came out in February, turned 10 the middle of 64, and I bought my last Joe figure. It wasn't a figure. It was the Desert Jeep, the Rat Patrol Jeep, um, in 67 or 68. About the time I was heading out, gotten interested in other things.
I was 4 when GI Joe came out.
Were you?
So I played with him. I've told Terry this, but I played with him right through to the end of the adventure team.
A kid brother who's 14 years younger than me, so he got all my Joe stuff, and it's all just destroyed. But my older brother, after my mother died, he got all her stuff, et cetera, and then he died in early 2000. See, it was 2002, I think, when he died, and so I was going through his thing. He had saved a jewelry box of hers, and the only thing from my childhood GI Joes was in the bottom of that jewelry box. I found the knife from the French Resistance fighter.
Oh,
And I don't know how she wound up with it, or how it wound up in there, or anything like that. But that's all I have left of my my GI Joe
wow,
toyhood collection, and
wow,
it's a proud piece in my now collection. Mike and I, about once a year, typically when the weather turns nice in the fall, we'll go set up a photo shoot somewhere and do some really, really nice stuff. So I like to be able to play with them. I like to take them off the shelves and go get out in the woods or down by the lake and
were you there, David, when they did the big setup out at, what is it, Lake Lanier?
Yeah, I was there. We did that on Veterans Day. I'm trying to remember when it was, but it's been a while now, probably
Yes.
2011, something like that.
Yes.
But yeah, and we took a ton. I had tremendous fun taking a ton of pictures
Right.
out by Lake Lanier with that. Brought tanks and jeeps, and literally had about 200 Joes, and it was just a really, really fun time that afternoon.
Yeah, I was invited, and I wish I could have been there, because that just looking at the pictures made me go, oh man, I should have went.
Yeah.
But I want to mention the Cody Lane. Are we still trying to get a museum?
Yeah, it's been a little bit frustrating, and it's like forces. Sometimes when things are incredibly hard, I figure, well, it must be a really, really good thing, because the enemy sure is coming after it.
Right.
And we had enough money to go start looking for property, and Joe-Lan and Toy-Lana have been fundraising activities for the Cody Lane Toy and Diorama Museum, Memorial Toy and Diorama Museum, and we found 2 properties near Stone Mountain, which would be a great location, because they already got the big tourist space for Stone Mountain.
Right.
And we went and visited, and they were talking. We went and visited both these places, and they were both talking about between $12 and $13 a square foot. And so we liked them both. We went back to the board and did a little more searching, and went back to them 3 months later to make an offer. And they said, and oh, by the way, the price has gone up to $21 a square foot. And it was like, we got to start over. Oh gosh, we got to start over. So now we're working on a plan B to try to maybe put together a mobile toy and diorama museum that we can take to schools and try and pique interest like that, because it's easy to sell a product if you've got a prototype, so to speak. It's
Sure.
really hard to sell an idea. And so we were thinking if we had the mobile thing that we could take to schools, take to festivals and things like that, then we got something concrete that people can see, and that might make our fundraising efforts a little easier. But yeah, we're still working at it. Believe it or not, it's just been so slow and so frustrating because it's taken much longer than we had hoped that it would. The three of us, we played outside, and we played in the dirt, and there was a little branch down in the woods behind my house, and we were in the woods, we were down at the branch, and we were just out all day. I'd get upset when they would make me come in. It started getting dark and things like that, and that's kind of gone from our culture. Kids are
Yes.
now, they're not out playing in the dirt. They're not out being imaginative. All it took was 2 sticks, and you and your friend had swords and could take on any enemy or any dragon or each other. And I say that laughingly because I broke my buddy's finger one time in a sword fight with two sticks. And
Right.
I happened to hit him right on the hand where he's holding his sword and broke his pointer finger.
Oh my.
And I saw him at a high school class reunion last summer, and he said, "You remember that time?" All those stories start. Oh yeah, I remember that. I'm still embarrassed about it. 60 years later, I'm still embarrassed about it.
Yes.
But we played outside, and that's kind of been lost. And kids stay inside. They stare at screens all day, and we're concerned about the loss of that creative play, and we're concerned about children having their imagination engaged, because imagination serves so many purposes. Essentially, what imagination helps you do is one, solve problems. If I don't have an imagination, then I can't solve problems, because part of solving problems is figuring out 2 or 3 options of how to get through this thing and deal with this thing and put it behind me. And if I don't have an imagination, I lack problem solving skills. Another thing, imagination is rehearsal for adulthood. We are constantly practicing through our imagination as children of how to be adults and how we're going to be as adults. And I'm a little concerned about the impact that staring at screens all day has on that. Plus, another big agenda is a lot of the dioramas. I mentioned Mike Gardner, but Steve Bugg, Eric Nettles used to do huge dioramas. And when they were done with them, they would just take them apart and use them for other things, and big chunks of it would go in the trash can. And we want to preserve that because it's absolute beautiful art. And
Yes.
so that's a second piece of our mission. One is
Yeah.
imaginative play, and the second piece is preserving the art of the diorama.
David, what would you say of all the figures that were made at Joe Lana? Which would be your favorite?
Wow, it's hard. It's hard to say. We've done a ton of them over the years. I liked the 2016 figure, which was the it was like a security guard. I think it was assault on Seaport 16 or something like that. But it was a kind of a naval security.
Oh yes.
Had this blue camo.
Yes.
And also like the alternative universe that we did, the Zeppelin Commander and the Zeppelin deck gunner that we did
Yes.
from alternative history.
Those two were my favorites too.
Yeah, looks like Mike's
and
going to. It looks like Rick's going to get something off the shelf.
somebody is
maybe
asking
burn it.
about Ronald McDonald is asking about.
Yeah, he asked a question.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yes, it's a spider. This is from when King Kong Skull Island came out.
Okay.
Yeah,
This was one of the toys. It's kind of neat.
nice.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Uh,
is.
I use it with 1/18 scale figures for some photographs. But yeah, it's a nice piece.
I don't know, David, if you've seen our calendar, but
I have.
Joe Atlanta, we make a calendar every year, And I told Rick that I felt like his picture was the best one in there this year. See if I can find it here. Here's Rick's picture.
Nice.
And,
Yeah, I
and
remember. I remember looking at the images. You
you
put them
got
up online.
that. Didn't you get that statue from one of the
Sean Wright.
Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, I traded him.
Yeah.
For it. Yeah, that's kind of neat. It's right back there, actually.
Why don't you get it and show it to us too if you can? Can you do that? We got a couple minutes.
It's like, I don't know what these are, but they're stone.
Oh yeah,
or-
yeah.
You know.
Mm.
Oh,
Well,
what
that's
are
that
those?
army in China, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the terracotta guys.
Uh-huh.
And Sean bought like 8 of them.
Uh-huh.
And he did his picture with them, and then he traded them off and
Yeah.
sold them to some guys. And I traded them for a Joe for one.
Yeah, they had that exhibit at the High Museum. You know, it was just 15 or 20 of the terracotta soldiers. But in the gift shop, they had those figures, and I kicked myself because I didn't grab the half a dozen of them when
Well,
they
if
had them
you
in those gift shops.
If you'd like one, send Sean a message. He when he was on our show, he said that he had a few, and if people would pay for the shipping, he'd send it to them for free.
Oh
Isn't that-
wow!
He might have got rid of them all. He only
He might
had,
have. He
Yeah.
might have. Yeah.
So I managed
One
to
more thing behind you, Rick. What's that police guy behind you there in the white
Oh,
over your left? Yeah, right there. What's that? What's that guy? You keep attracting our attention with all your stuff here, Rick.
this one.
Yeah.
So this is.
Is that Action Man?
No, this is round 2, Captain Action.
Okay. Round
And-
2, Captain Action.
The jacket is a GI Joe from a GI Joe club, I think,
Okay.
when they were in, doing their thing.
Hmm.
And I managed to buy this off of eBay. The pants and all this stuff is all Lennard Ultra Cores. And what they did was Captain Action came out with a winter Captain Action. So his outfit underneath is white and blue. And of course, he has the white Captain Action hat.
Yeah.
But he's kind of a neat one.
Yeah, he is.
I thought round 2 did a great job with these figures, and they just kind of they peaked and went downhill like really quickly.
Thank you so much, David. I appreciate you taking the time to come and join us.
Sure, happy to do it. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Rick,
Rick.
for
Yeah, nice to meet you, David.
Yeah, you too.
in my new Toys Mine Facebook page. There's a little bird that somebody has painted yellow, so y'all might want to check that out later.
No, that's Robert DeCastro, isn't it?
Yeah, Robert has
Yeah.
done an excellent job with
Yeah,
that.
good work.
You'll really like it. Thank y'all so much. I hope you have a good evening and a wonderful year.
Thank you,
And
guys.
remember,
Bye, everybody.
toys are fun.
Thanks, Marie.
Bye,
Take care, everybody. Hope to see you in March.
But tonight's show is brought to you by Five Below. They've got this mini barbecue grill. It's close to Joe. You might want to check it out for $5. You can't go wrong. I love this propane tank, and I love the little hot dogs and hamburgers. They fit just right in Joe's hands.
Here's a piece that everyone will like. It's an Ultra Cores piece, which is a distant cousin to G.I. Joe. See if I can get them in there. And this is their Humvee little runabout.
Wow, man, that's awesome.
And it has, if you can see the top, it's a little dusty, but that's a real stretch top, like a leather top. It's really cool. Comes off.
Don't tell me you got that at a flea market too.
No, this one I bought on eBay. Of course, I
Okay.
ended up with 2 of them. This one is the single Jeep. And then behind me on the shelf, it comes with a trailer with like a a big cannon in it that shoots stuff. But for a
Cool.
GI Joe piece, it's like the perfect size.
It's
not
just
too
amazing.
heavy.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, and it's smaller than the Joe Jeep. Just on the floor. So it fits really cool with like the Adventure Team line.
Well, without further ado, we're going to bring in our great brand new guest. We've never had him on before. He's the go-to guy for anything that you want in vintage GI Joe. Here's Ace.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing, Ace?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. This is awesome. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're the
Super
man.
fun.
You're
Well,
the
I
man.
I want to ask, first of all, where did that Jeep you were showing, where did you buy that? Where did that come from?
I got it off of eBay. It's made by Leonard Ultra Cool.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
Action Force or part. Yeah, I know those guys.
Something like
Awesome.
that, yeah.
Yeah,
It
they have
actually,
really cool stuff.
one of the stickers, it says Ultra Cores right on the Jeep.
Oh,
So
that's
I'd
awesome.
When I was looking for them, they didn't show up on eBay that often. So,
Right.
but I
Right.
haven't been
That's
on
cool.
eBay in a long time.
Well,
That's-
I got some Ultra Cores a few weeks ago, and I tried to sell them on their website, and I was able to sell most of them, but there's not a lot of people that are collecting that anymore. But he says, the guy that kind of is the American contact, he says that they're getting ready to bring out an Amazon like a store on Amazon with some brand new stuff. They have a sale down somewhere in Oklahoma where they let you come in and you can buy stuff from Ultra Core that's all over the world, like from South America and all that stuff. But this year was the last show. They're never going to do it again. They're never going to let you come to that.
Oh, really?
fact.
That's exactly. I mean, it's just like that barbecue set. It's like perfect for customizing, and I just love that kind of stuff. That 1/6 scale stuff that you can find when you're looking at the store. My kid and I, that's what we do. She's kind of into American Girl, and I'm into GI Joe. So if she finds something that's American, I find something American Girl size, I buy it for her. She buys some 1/6 stuff, scale stuff for me all the time. It's fun, It's great to look for that kind of stuff.
It is. And I go to Goodwill every day, and I try to pick up something if they've got it. And I think one of the best things I got was one of the cars that I was able to pick up, which it was a convertible, and it was probably made for Barbie, but it fit perfect for GI Joe. Kind of looked like an old MG.
Okay, I'll tell you something else. Andrew Garrison is another guy you see all the time, but he's brought me magnets. I know this sounds crazy, but go to the magnets and see it. Sometimes in the magnet section of the world, especially garage sales, they'll have like 1/6. He brought me this fan. It's a fan that's 1/6
Oh, yeah.
scale. It's cool as
Oh,
all
yeah.
get out because
Yeah.
it's a magnet. But anyway, that kind of stuff's fun. I love
Well,
it.
I have a fan too. I don't know if it's the same one. My son picked it up for me at Hobby Lobby in the dollhouse collection.
Maybe
Because in the
there you go.
dollhouse, when you go back to the dollhouse, they have different
Mhm.
size stuff back there.
Oh
And
yeah.
he picked up a fan and brought it to me. I've got a telephone that he picked me up
See,
from
that's
the
awesome.
Hobby Lobby. Yeah, that was stuff. When I make dioramas, I think the one that we really did a good job on was the one we made for Christmas, me and my grandson. I'm sorry we didn't take better pictures of it because it just, the lighting wasn't great. But
Yeah.
we had everything from street lights that lit up all the way down to chocolate chip cookies in the GI Joe's hands. I'm telling you,
Wow.
it was that diorama
awesome.
that was great.
And
And
it
me
was
and
fun making it. It was
Yeah,
really fun making it, wasn't it?
me and my grandson spent days on that thing, man.
Yeah, that's
It was fun.
fantastic.
It was fun.
Wow.
Well, I hear you got some Tommy gun stuff.
yeah, it's just kind of weird. Now, I first want to start this off by saying, have you even heard of Tommy Gun? I mean,
Oh
some
yeah,
people-
oh yeah.
uh,
Not
some
everybody,
Not
but
everybody
yeah,
has. Now, there's a book that just came out, and I'm gonna look at the photo here. It's by and this is awesome. This is an amazing book that, and I'll tell you what's called. It's Basement's Coming Slow, Murray. But it's coming. I'm doing lighting of all my cabinets. I'm doing each individual shelf, so I'm extremely excited about all that. So I'll happily tell you about all my shelf lighting. But Harry, I think it's Hindman is how you say it, but he is a guy that wrote this amazing book. You can find it on Amazon, and it's about Tommy Gunn. And of course, I have a copy of it. Of course, I've loaned it to somebody, and I don't know where it is. And it's at the house. I can't remember where I put it. And but it's an amazing book because I was hoping to like read up a little bit on it to kind of give you some, here's a little bit of real factual information, but I'm going to be very vague in my facts and tell you to buy Harry's book on Amazon. It's available now. What's really cool about it is if you buy the book, you can buy it in hardcover or you can buy it in soft cover. So it's a little bit cheaper if you want to pay that way. But the amount of information it's amazing. It's really, really fantastic. And I just give him a lot of credit for doing it and putting all the work into it and all the stuff. But for someone like me, it really has opened up my, I'm on the Facebook group too. There is a Facebook group. And of course, like anything, you go to a Facebook group and there are a wealth of information, but it's fun to kind of sit and that. In fact, that's where I found out about the book was on the Facebook page. Okay, so I want to start by showing this guy, and
Okay.
again, I'm not gonna tell you exactly what this is because I didn't have the book to look at before to show you this, but this figure is kind of weird. It's kind of like a what do you call those, the knockoff figures, the not Mr. Action, but anyway, but the uniform.
How different do you think he is from the GI Joe or the Hasbro that was made?
Well, it's here's the way I would describe it: minutely different, but higher quality.
Oh, okay. So the uniform's
Now,
better.
Yeah, maybe Johnny Canuck. It's anyway. The head will come. The guy, you get old and you forget these things. Anyway, I would say, and that's what's so fantastic that the book does is it goes through and it specifically talks about the differences in the rifles. I mean, honestly, you look at that gun. And to a Yahoo like me in America, I would say that is a straight up Action Man gun.
Yeah.
And so I don't. There's some slight differences. It feels a little thicker. Feels like a little bit. I know the strap is slightly different. Here's something I noticed on the hat is it's kind of like a molded plastic. You kind of can't see it in there.
It looks beefier. It looks beefier too than the Hasbro.
It is. It's I will tell you. It's kind of funny that you say that because of course I brought a Hasbro or a Paladin guy. And if you look at the Hasbro hat and then the
the hats are just completely different.
It's a little bit. It's like a thicker fur, and like I say, there's like you can see this like this is like a cup. A solid. The Action is a cup. No, they both have a chin strap.
Right.
I gotta get back because I'm trying to be too close up here.
Yeah,
anyway.
I can see that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see the hats here. This is the Action Man. This is the Tommy Gunn. Yeah. And now people see these shoes, these lace-up shoes.
Yep.
They're marked Hong Kong on the bottom, not Hasbro Hong Kong like the Action Man ones are. But again, people find those things. Now there are knockoff versions of those too that I found, but these seem to be a little bit better constructed.
Cool.
I don't know what TG is, Murray. What do you mean by TG?
Tommy Gunn.
The Tommy
Oh.
Gunn's uniform is more accurate.
Yeah, I would certainly. The belt buckle, I can't really tell that, but the belt buckle it really kind of has writing on it, whereas the Action
Mhm.
Man one is a little bit more, just a little rougher. Just it's not. But again, I mean, we're talking. To me, you're kind of splitting hairs. Okay, here's a difference I can see just by looking at it, by grabbing it. If you look at the back here, there's this is a glued on piece of thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm not
Yeah.
the brightest bulb. The Grenadier Guards patch back here is glued on, kind of like the patches on the Soldier of the World guys. Okay. Just looking at the Tommy Gunn one, there's that blue line is embroidered,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
and then the white is glued on. You know what I mean? Higher quality.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't make the different units because in Great Britain you can tell the different units by the positioning of the buttons. Like if they have two buttons and then a space and then two buttons, or three buttons and then a space and three. But this is I believe this is what Murray said is the Grenadiers. So
Yeah,
it's
you're
not-
beyond my pay grade. Yeah.
and I'm
it's a
I'm
great
talking
point.
about something that ain't important either. I mean, it ain't important.
But Murray just made a huge point. A huge
Yeah,
point.
yeah, about the
The
embroidery.
pant
in the
crease.
tree.
That
Yeah.
is a sewn. That is a stitched, sewn.
That really lifts it up right there.
You can kind of see that, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Can see it good.
that lifts it up right there. I love
You
it.
know, again, and I don't know the legality and the copyright and all that, but again, buy the book. You'll learn all that cool stuff in there. Okay,
That's right.
so again, so I have the Action Man one, and that just kind of gives you an idea of theirs. And what's interesting about this figure is he's a soft, like a rubbery figure, and Fighting Yank. That's the name of the guy I was kind of thinking. This guy's kind of like he's got
Right.
the two quote unquote left hands, if you want to say that, and
Yeah.
he's got the parachute smock on him and the helmet. Now, what's interesting, and this got this radio on his back. I mean, I will tell you this. You think Joe stuff's fragile, man? This thing's pretty fragile. And this is
I
really don't.
I can believe it, man. I can believe it.
the parachute knife in a sheath on a piece of string, which is kind of trippy, but it's cool. Now, he also has a dog tag, which is really awesome. And the dog tag says gun, and it has a serial number. It has a serial number. It says gun 1. Gun 1.
Way to go.
I will say that their detail is fantastic, but the fragility of it is, at least the Joe stuff was a little more, could take a little bit more of a beating, or some of it did. The thing that's also cool about it is, it had to come out after Joe, because look at this.
Yeah.
This must have come with the figure, and I don't know what paperwork came with what, but I've got this, and this is your basic, Tommy gun manual, and it's got how to dress your figure.
Wow.
Which is cool, and then obviously the different positions. Now, pooties. Thank you. That's a great way to. That's a great thing to say, is pooties, and that's I think an Indian term of if I'm not mistaken. Okay, now I'm going to be freaking out and then they start doing, of course, selling the accessories. Murray, the problem is, I think this would last about an hour and a half, not a childhood of a couple of years. His question was, it was only meant to last for a few years of a childhood. And so there's the radio. You can see how the radio is supposed to kind of go on it. And I did all this kind of stuff, and
how long have you had that particular set right there?
5 or 6 years. And honestly, I haven't put a whole lot of of time into it because I've been doing other things. But
Right.
anyway,
Right.
I'm starting to dig into this now. There's one thing about Tom, not one thing, but one of the Tommy gun things is they made some cool accessories, and there's one accessory that I got to show you that would never be made today. Okay, it's the barbed wire. Okay.
Okay. Okay. The barbed wire. Yeah.
Now you laugh now, right?
Don't tell me it's real barbed wire.
Yes, sir. Great for the little ones. Look at this.
Oh my goodness.
And it's metal, dude. It's
Holy crap.
now the barbs are rubbery plastic. Okay, it's not.
Mhm.
But but still, isn't that cool?
That is
I mean,
absolutely cool.
And I mean, why didn't Joe come up with this? I mean, there must have been somebody saying no, and then they have real
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
real stuff like this,
Yeah. To wrap it up. Yep.
Yeah. and then now here's a radio without the straps on it. You can see their straps have popped off there. They're like heat stamped on there. They're like, melted in.
Right.
Yeah. So that's gonna last.
What does the radio part look like? That you turn the radio around the other side.
Man, this is amazing.
Because it looked like it was detailed, but I couldn't see very quick. Oh yeah. Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That is real detailed. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to search for one.
Oh yeah. For everything on eBay just went up 30% because Terry's in. Okay. All right. So here's another thing that's pretty cool. Now this is a medic bag.
Oh man.
Oh, wow.
Of
All vinyl? Yeah.
All vinyl. Yeah.
Oh man.
And I'll be straight up. I got no idea if this is crazy hard to find or not hard to find, but again, I think a bunch of Tommy gun guys are going to go on and go, "Wow, you really hacked that one, Ace." But this is another one I think is really cool. I like this piece right here. This is it's this, right? So it's a little. Now this is plastic, and this is vinyl right here.
Uh-huh. Oh man.
Mr.
A
Joe,
handset.
the phone for you, sir. And then he's
I like his look. I think he looks cool.
yeah, no, he is. He's a good looking feller.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good looking fella.
And it's fun.
Well, y'all have a good evening and thanks for coming. And I hope to see y'all again. We'll have you back on later on again, Ace.
Anytime. I love it. It's great. It's great. It's fun. It's fun to be here.
But you guys, thanks for joining us. And remember, toys are fun.
That's right.
All right.